We begin today the Gemara towards the bottom of Samach Gimel Amud Beis, 6 lines up from the bottom of the Amud, where it says Bish Shleima. The Gemara here brought two braises explaining the psukim in Parshas Mishpatim. One pasuk it says Im lo yimatza ganev. 1 second. See the pasuk over here. One is in pasuk Vav where it says actually Im yimatzi ganev, that Yishalem Shnayim, that you pay double, kefil. And then there's another pasuk where it says Im lo yimatza ganev, in pasuk Zayin it says, and then it continues in pasuk Ches over there as well, Yishalem Shnayim. So twice, the Torah says over there, twice the halacha of paying kefil regarding a ganev. Again, a person that steals, you pay back, you have to pay double of what you stole. So one brayso said that both psukim are talking about a case where the person is toyin tainas ganev. We're talking about a shomer that's keeping an item, and then the owner wants it back, and he claims that it got stolen, and really he's keeping it for himself. That's one mandama. Another mandama says, no, they're not both talking about toyin tainas ganev. One pasuk is talking about a shomer, which is toyin tainas ganev. Another pasuk is talking about the ganev himself, and he has to pay kefil. So now the Gemara continues and asks as follows: It's fine, it's understood according to the opinion that says that one of those psukim is talking about the ganev himself that pays kefil, and the other pasuk is talking about the one that is just guarding the object, and he claims that it got stolen, so shaper. So that's understood. So we have a source for the payment of kefil regarding the ganev, and the shomer that claims that it got stolen. But according to the other brayso that said that both of those psukim are talking about the shomer that claims it got stolen, ganev atzma iminole, the ganev himself that he has to pay kefil. What is the source for this? If you'll argue and say, once the Torah says that even a shomer that argues that it, or claims that it got stolen, that he has to pay kefil, so you don't need a pasuk for the ganev himself. Leisi b'kavachaymer, you can learn it with a kavachaymer mitoyin tainas ganev. If you just claim that it got stolen, you pay kefil. For sure, if you physically stole directly, then you should have to pay kefil for this. But you can't learn it from there. Why not? Because then I would say as follows: Then I would say that if you're learning, if the source of a ganev paying kefil comes from toyin tainas ganev, so you should only pay kefil like in the source where you're learning it from. And what do you see there? Just like by a shomer, when does he pay kefil? If he claimed that it got stolen, only if he swore falsely that it got stolen, he wanted to pater himself of paying. Avkan b'shvuah, so too by a ganev, he should only pay kefil if there's a shvuah. So from where do you know that a ganev that steals has to pay kefil without a shvuah? And the Gemara, according to this opinion, nafkele midutana de bechizkiah. He learns it out from the pasuk that Chizkiah discussed. Now, the truth is that the Gemara is going to bring a long discussion, a long brayso when you get to this pasuk, but what the Gemara really means to answer is that there's a third pasuk where it clearly is speaking about the ganev himself, and it says there that you pay kefil. You see here, this Gemara, the pasuk here on the side, himatze biyodoi hageneva, mishoyer ad chamoyer atzeh chayim, shnayim yishalim. That's a third pasuk where it clearly says that the ganev himself pays kefil. The reason the Gemara is not bringing just the pasuk itself, but it's bringing the brayso that's Tana de Bechizkiah to explain the details of that pasuk, is because when you read the pasuk itself, it might seem like that, yeah, it's saying a ganev pays kefil, but when? When does he pay kefil? Only for an animal that was stolen, because that's the examples it gives. But the whole beginning of our Perek was that merube, that you pay kefil by a ganev for anything, any object that you steal. So here in this brayso, we'll see the limud of how we translate this pasuk, that a ganev pays kefil for any item that he steals. There are certain exceptions, as we'll see over here, what we learn from this pasuk. Now, the Tana de Bechizkiah, so Chizkiah explained that here in this pasuk, there seems to be a lot of extra things here. It would be enough for the pasuk to just say the words shoyer and geneva. Just shoyer and geneva, and vakel b'chlal. And I would know to include everything else in this. What this brayso really means is, as we'll see soon in the continuation of the Gemara, that it would be enough if it would say shoyer and geneva, and then it would be a klal, uprat, a klal, as the Gemara is going to eventually explain. And that would be enough to be maber anything else that's ke'en haprat, that's similar to shoyer and geneva, and you would know already that you pay kefil for everything. Why does it say all the other details in the pasuk? Chamoyer, atzeh, chayim, and so on. Says the Braise weiter, ilokach, but if that would be the case, maybe then I would make the mistake to say that maybe this ke'ena prat, where I say that you have to pay kefil for what's similar to what it says in the pasuk, maybe that has a very specific, maybe that's very limited. Because prat mefurish, prat, what's the prat that's mentioned in the pasuk? A shirt. Card of the gabi mizbeach. An ox could be brought as a carbon. Avkol, maybe I would say also which kind of animals is there a payment of kefil for? Only card of the gabi mizbeach. Only if you could bring it down the mizbeach. So therefore the pasuk has to say more to add additional things. So now ma yesh l'chol havi. If it would say only shayr and geneva, and you would say that it has to be similar to shayr, which could be brought on the mizbeach, what other animal is similar to shayr that could be brought on the mizbeach that you would say that kefil applies? Seh. That would mean sheep. Sheep are also animals that are brought on the mizbeach. That's what I would learn out from if it would only say shayr and geneva. Says the Gemara or the Braise, but keshuayim is seh. But then the pasuk spells out clearly seh in this pasuk. Harei seh amar. So it already clearly says in the pasuk seh. So we can't say that this klal prat is coming to teach me that what's similar to the shayr, that it can be brought in the mizbeach, that's what you pay kefil for. No, it says clearly in the pasuk that for sheep you pay the kefil. So Hamani Mekayim Geneva. So when the pasuk here says Geneva together with Shayr and Seh, which as I mentioned, the Gemara will explain, is it going to be a klal, a prat, a klal? What more is it coming to include that it's similar to what says in the pasuk that you always also pay kefil for? L'rab is called davar. It's coming to include other things as well that are similar to the Shayr and the Seh, even if it can't be brought on the mizbeach. Now, what else is that? So the Braise continues and says, but if it would only say Shayr and Seh, and I would have to think of something else which is similar to it, how would I define the similarity? So the Braise says, Yom Shayr Seh or Geneva, if a pasuk would say the example of an ox and a sheep and the word Geneva, which would then make it a klal, a prat, a klal, va'akel b'chlal, and I would say that everything else should be included. So it's not necessary for the pasuk to say any other details. Why does it say afterwards in the pasuk Chamoir and Chaim? So says the Braise, no, ilukach, if it would only say Shayr and Seh, how would I understand this klal prat klal? What does it mean that it has to be similar to the prat that it says in the pasuk? The two pratim it says here in the pasuk, Shayr and Seh, are two animals that have the kedusha of a b'chayre. So maybe the halacha of kefil, av kol, and things, other things that are similar, I say is only davar kodesh b'chayre. Only something that has the kedusha of b'chayr. Now, mal yesh l'chol havi. If that would be the meaning of the klal prat klal, what else would I say is similar to this that also has the kedusha of b'chayr? Chamayr. I would say that is coming to add and include even a donkey that has the din of petach chamayr, the kedusha of a b'chayr. But now, though, the pasuk added the word chamayr explicitly, so you can't say it's coming to add this. It's coming to add the chamayr that's similar in this sense. Keshuayim chamayr. Once the pasuk says clearly chamayr, harei chamayr amar. So now it clearly already tells us that the donkey is included. So Hamani Mekayim Geneva. So what am I going to then learn out from this klal prat klal that we're adding something even more that's similar to what it says in the pasuk? L'rabba is called over. I have to add even more things that are similar to the prat, not only something which you can which has the kedusha of b'chayr. Now the Braise continues and says, Yoma Shayr, Chamoir, Seh, and Geneva. If the pasuk would say all these details, va'akel b'chlal, so then everything is already included. Why does the pasuk have to say another detail? What does it say afterwards in the pasuk Chaim? Why does it have to say that? Says the Braise, Ilu kacha yisi oime. If that would be the case, then I would say ma haprat mefurish bali chaim. Just like over here in the pasuk, with all these details that it says, so it's all bali chaim, just animals. Av kol bali chaim. So I would say that ke'ena prat means that it has to be a living being, an animal. So then, what would be the limit over here of this klal prat klal to say that I include not only these animals, but I include all other kinds of bali chayim? But keshuayim chayim, when the pasuk says the word chayim clearly, harei chayim omer. So the pasuk already says the word chayim, which tells me that it includes all kinds of animals. Homani mekayim geneva. So then the question becomes, you can't say that this klal prat klal, which is coming to add something which is similar to what it says in the pasuk, and it's not mefurish in the pasuk, that it's coming to add all bali chayim. No, because that already is mefurish in the pasuk. The pasuk says the word chayim. So then, what do we learn from this klal prat klal? L'rabba is called davar. It's coming to add kol davar. It's coming to add other things, other objects, even things that are not Bali Chayim. That's the conclusion of the Braisa. So the point that you see that Chizki, Tana de Chizki, is coming to learn from this pasuk over here is the klal of Prat, the klal is coming to say that you pay kefil for anything that a ganav steals, not only the various different restrictions that we said before, whether brought in the mizbeach or kedushas b'chayre or only Bali Chayim. No, you pay kefil for any object that's stolen.
But
that's the conclusion
here. It doesn't say anything about living everything out, just saying that in the pasuk, in Motzi to Motzi,
one second. The himotzi, simotzi, that's what the Gemara is going to focus on in a second.
No, I'm talking about, just leave out the words, sure, somewhere, this, that will include everything already, because we don't have to worry about all these.
Okay. We're just starting this. There's a lot coming here. The Gemara is going to explain over here exactly how you read this pasuk. The Gemara is going to go through now 3 different tefanim of possibilities of how you interpret this brayso and how you learn this pasuk. So put on your seatbelt. Let's go. Zok the Gemara Azai. Oh mama, what did it say here in the brayso? So first, the Gemara translates the simple words of what the brayso says. The way I explained it the whole time is that the brayso is trying to say that we have a klal, a prat, a klal here in this pasuk. And we're trying to figure out what's the ke'en haprat. What are we going to learn out from this? But if you look in the words of the brayso, it's not what it sounds like. Because what are the words of the brayso? Yaima shayr ugneva. It would be enough if the pasuk would just say the words shayr and gneva. That's it. Yimatzi simatzi shayr gneva shnayim yishalim. But the question is, shayr and gneva, is that what it says in the pasuk? Miksiv shayr or gneva? Does the pasuk say first shayr and then gneva? What's the brayso saying? That it should say just shayr, and then after the word shayr, it says gneva. But that's not what it says in the pasuk. It says it the other way around. Gneva v'shayru d'chsiv. It says first gneva, and then it says shayr. Okay, so now, what the Gemara is really asking is, what's the difference if it says first gneva and then shayr, or if it says first shayr and then gneva? The difference is, if it says first gneva and then shayr, that's what's called a klal uprat. The Torah first says it in a broader sense, and then it says shayr, which is very specific. And when the Torah writes a klal and then a prat, what we learned that out, ein b'chlal elam asher b'prat. So then it would be only shayr. You can't be marbe anything else. If the Torah writes first shayr and then gneva, so then what does that mean? The Torah is writing a prat, and then it's saying a klal. The klal means you marbe everything. You don't exclude anything from that. Right, so over here, the Gemara is asking, the brayso is saying that it should say why isn't it enough for the fact that the Torah says shayr and gneva, but that's not what it says in the pasuk. In the pasuk, it first says gneva and then it says shayr. How could the pasuk stop there? If the pasuk would stop by shayr, then I would say that it's a klal and a prat, and the kefil is only by the prat of shayr and nothing else. So now, if you're going to touch the words of the brayso a little different and say as follows, what it meant to say is ilu nema kama. The brayso is not saying that it should stop after the word geneva, after the word shayr, that is. It could say geneva and then shayr, it should stop right there. What the brayso is saying is, why wouldn't the pasuk switch around the order? Ilu nema, if the pasuk would switch around the order, comma, that's what it means to say. Ilu nema shayr geneva. So the Gemara now actually is asking over here, could that be what the brayso is saying? That the pasuk could switch around the order? Ilu nema shayr gneva, the pasuk should first write shayr and then write gneva after that. Umi matzas amris. But if that's what the brayso is trying to say, so then how could then the brayso continue and say ma haprat mefurish, that just like the prat is a shayr which is brought in the mizbeach, so too other things that are similar to the prat that are brought in the mizbeach. How could the brayso continue saying that? If the brayso means to say that it should say it in the opposite order, then it would say shayr first and then geneva. So then have a shayr prat. Shayr is first a detail. Or geneva klal. And what's the rule? When you have a prat uklal, when it says first a prat and then it says a klal, nas a klal, meisuf ala prat. The klal comes to add more than the prat, that you include everything. You marb everything. That's the way it works. Once the Torah writes a prat, then it writes a klal. You come and add everything. Visrabalu who kol mili. So that's not what the brayso here means. If it continues and says that if it would only say geneva and shayr, then I would say that it's ke'en prat, that it's similar to the shayr which is brought in the mizbeach. Elo, we have to go back to what we suggested before this. Kidichsiv kamri. The pasuk over here, the brayso over here is talking about the order of the way it's written in the pasuk. That it says first geneva and then it says shayr. And the brayso is saying it would be enough if the pasuk would just say geneva and then it would say shayr. But the question comes back: Gneve v'shayr mi matzes amris hakoil b'chlal. If the Torah would just write Geneva and Shoyer, how could the Braisa come and say that would be enough? I would know already that everything is included. Or then afterwards the Braisa goes on to explain, no, I wouldn't know that everything is included, because I would say, Maha Prat Mefurish. Braisa goes on to say, I would think that it's similar to the Shoyer, which is only brought in the Mizbeach. How could the Braisa say all of this? Havale Gneve Klal. If it first says the word Gneva, so Gneva is a klal, and then Vishoyer Prat, afterwards the word Shoyer is a Prat, klal or Prat, ein b'chlal, ela masha b'frat. So then the rule is, if the Torah says just a klal and just a Prat, the Prat limits and says that it's only this and nothing else. Shoyer in midyachrin aloi. So what's the pshat of here in the Braisa? So therefore the Gemara comes and says, as I learned and explained the Braisa before, that really the Braisa means to say, not only that it should say Gneva and Shoyer. Those two words alone would not be enough. But rather the Braisa means that it could have just said Geneva and Shoyer, and also the word Chayim afterwards it would have to say, because then that word Chayim would be another klal, and that would be a klal, a prat, a klal. Let's see. Omar Rove, so Rove says, Tana Achayim Kasamach. When the Tana says that it could just say Geneva and then Shoyer, he doesn't mean stop right there. He means Geneva and Shoyer, and then afterwards you have to write the word Chayim. Chayim means any living being, so that's another klal. So a klal, a prat, a klal, kamale. So now you have a klal, a prat, a klal. Frag the Gemara. Okay, now the truth is that right over here, after the Gemara, after Rav says this, there is a question that comes up based on this, because what the Braisa before said is that in the simple words of the Braisa, it actually said in the end that the word Chayim is extra. The Braisa questions. The Braisa goes through all the different words and it says in the pasuk, right? It says, why does it have to say Shir Dafke? Then why does it have to say Chamoy? Why does it have to say the word Se? And then it goes on to ask, and why does it have to say the word Chayim? That's what it said in the Braisa. But now, according to the way Rav is interpreting, the word Chayim is for sure not extra. We need the word Chayim in order for this to be a klal, a prat, a klal. Geneve, Shoyer, and Chayim. So what does the Braisa mean when it says, regarding the word Chayim, that the word Chayim is not teaching me anything? So Rav is going to continue explaining this in a moment, but the Gemara here interjects and asks a question regarding this klal, a prat, a klal. Fragt the Gemara, but v'holei domi klal basra leklal kama. But how could you say that this is a klal, a prat, a klal? The klal that's brought in the beginning, which is the word geneva, and the klal that's brought in the end, which is the word chayim, is not the same kind of a klal. And the rule is, when you have a klal, a prat, a klal, usually the first klal has to be all-inclusive, and the last klal has to be a similar kind of all-inclusive klal. Over here, the word chayim includes all kinds of animals, but it doesn't include everything or any object like the word geneva does, so it can't be used as a klal, a prat, a klal. Says the Gemara, Tanad be Rabbi Shmuel. The Tana of this Braisa here, it holds like the Tana by Rabbi Shmuel, the Kehai Gavne Dorish Klali Prati. He does darshan a klal, prata klal, even when the second klal is not as all-inclusive as the first klal. Now she says, the Gemara in Chulin brings an example for this, where Rabbi Shmuel said this. So it still is a klal, prata klal. Okay, but now, coming back to the point that I mentioned before, why does the Braisa say in the end that there's a problem with the word Chayim, that the word Chayim is extra in the pasuk? It's not extra. That's the klal, prat, the klal. So Rava continues and explains, you're right. The word Chayim in the pasuk is not extra. Rather, the Braisa is asking another question. The double lashon in the beginning of the pasuk. What's that coming to teach me? That's really what's bothering the Braisa. The word Chayim in the Braisa is part of the klal, prat, the klal. But what is the word himatzi doing there? And that the Braisa actually does not give an answer for. And now the Gemara goes through the details of the Braisa again, the way Rav is interpreting it, until we'll come to the end of the Braisa, where we'll see that the main question that the Braisa really is asking is about the double lashon of himatzi. Let's see. So the Gemara goes through the same thing again. Yema shoyer geneva, let the pasuk just say shoyer and geneva, v'chayim. And now we add over here the word chayim, and now we know that it's a klal, a prat, a klal, v'hakel b'chlal. And that should include already everything else that's similar to the prat. Says the Braisa, but ilu kain, if that's what it would say, then I would say, ma prat mefurish davar hakarav l'gabe mizbeach, just like the shayr is brought on the mizbeach, av kol hakarav l'gabe mizbeach, only something that's brought on the mizbeach. So therefore, the klal, prat, the klal cannot be just with shayr. So now, if you would say that that's the klal, prat, the klal, what would you include? What else is brought on the mizbeach? You would say it includes a sheep as well. But now kishoim is set. Therefore, the pasuk spells out the word set clearly that hariseh amar. So that's not what the klal, prat, the klal is coming to add, because that it says explicitly. Ha'mani mekayim geneva. So what am I learning out from the klal uprat the klal that I see from the words geneva, sher, se, and chayim? L'rabba is called over. It's coming to add other things that are not brought in the mizbeach. But still, now we have to understand why it says in the Braise even more than this. Yoima geneva v'sher v'seh v'chayim. So it should say only these words, which is the klal uprat the klal. Va'akoil b'chlal, and I know to add more things. Why did I have to add in the Braise the word chamoyer? Says the Braise, because you look at it. I would say that if it only says sher and seh, I would add only other kinds of animals that have a kedusha of b'chayra similar to sher and seh. So what would that come and add? Chamoyer. That would be a donkey as well. But now, that's why the Torah wrote over here explicitly the donkey, because you can't say it's coming to add a donkey which also has kedushas b'chayra, because that's explicitly in the pasuk. Homani mekayim geneva. So why does the pasuk have to write the word geneva, meaning this klal prata klal here? It's coming to add more than just a chamoyer. L'rabba is kol dover. It has to be adding more than just this detail of something which is similar to what it says here in the pasuk, in the sense of kedushas b'chayr. Okay, so now we know why it has to say chamoyer as well, to clarify that the pshat and the klal prata klal is to add even something that does not have kedushas b'chayr. So now the Braise continues and says, so now Yoimar Geneve. Huh? Yeah. No, but it says explicitly in the pasuk. It says Chamer in the pasuk. So the klal prat the klal has to add something more, which is ke'ena prat. Not only what says explicitly. So what else are we coming to add? It has to be even something that does not have kedusha of b'chayr.
But the Geneva is before Shabbat.
Huh?
The word Geneva is before.
Very good. So that's a klal prat the klal. First Geneva, then the details, sher, chamer, seh, and then again another klal which is chayim. That's a klal prat the klal. Says the Gemara, Yoimar, if so now, the question is, Yoimar, Geneve, V'sher, V'seh, V'chamoyer, V'chayim, and that right here you added your klal prat the klal with all these details in order to help you clarify what exactly the ke'ena prat is, that it shouldn't be so restricted, but it should include more things. And V'akol b'chlal. And now you could learn out everything from here, that any other thing that's similar to what it says here in the pasuk, and that's not only with the restriction of what's brought in the mizbeach or kedushas b'chayr, but any other object as well, any other movable object. And I would know that it all is chayiv to pay kefil. So what's the Gemara really asking? According to Rav's pshat, the question at this point over here is not that the word chayim is extra, because chayim is part of the klal prat the klal. The real question that the Gemara, that the Braise means to ask is like Rava pointed out before, the double lashon of himotze simotze in the beginning of the pasuk is extra. That is what the Braise here is asking. Okay, so what's the answer? Ilukay, but if that would be the case, I would say maf aprat mefurish bale chayim. That I would think that over here, what is the ke'ena prat? The ke'ena prat is only bale chayim. I've called bale chayim. So I learn out from, if it would just be the klal prat the klal, I would say that I'm only marba other things, even things that don't have kedushas b'chayre, but I would say it's only bale chayim. So that's why I have to have the extra pasuk of imotze simotze to say even things that are not bale chayim. Okay, but now the Braise continues here, the question continues, but no, the emes is you don't need himotze simotze to come and say that even objects that are not bali chayim are included in kefil. Why not? Yesh l'chol shar bali chayim. What are you saying? The extra words of himotze simotze are coming to add that even other kinds of animals are also included in the paying kefil. But keshuay mechayim. What is the actual klal prat klal? The last klal over here is the word chayim. Hare chayim amor. The word chayim, doesn't that mean any kind of animals? So you can't tell me that it's coming to include other animals that are not like what it says here in the pasuk, that are brought in the mizbeach, or that has kedushas b'chayra. The word chayim itself should already tell you explicitly that it's coming to include other things. So hamani mekayim geneva. So over here, the klal prat the klal has to be adding something more than just what's mufurish in the pasuk. Since in this klal prat the klal, it already uses the term chayim that's coming to add all kinds of animals, so what else is the pasuk coming to be marba that's not mufurish in the pasuk? It must be things that are not just bali chayim. L'rab is called over to add other objects that are not bali chayim. See, if so, the conclusion here is imimotze simotze lamali. The double lashon of imotze simotze remains extra. You can't tell me that without imotzi simotzi I would not know bali chayim. No, the word chayim means all bali chayim. So what is himotzi simotzi coming to add? This is the conclusion of the Braisa. This is how Rav explained it. The Braisa is finishing off with a question that himotze is extra. So the Gemara goes on and explains, if so, this Braisa is actually asking a very good question. We have a klal prata klal, and the klal prata klal already tells me that the payment of kefil is regarding any object, not only animals. So what is the himotze coming to add? So the Gemara explains, the answer is, mishum de islay pirche. Because, no, to say that the klal prata klal itself already comes to add other things that are not bali chayim, that could be refuted. Because Larab is called Dava Mehecha Kamaisile. From where are you learning out that not only Bali Chaim, but other objects as well, you pay kefil for this? Miklal Basra. It's because you have here this klal prata klal. Again, the first klal is the word Geneva. Then you have the praten between Sher, Chamoyer, Se. And then you have the word Chaim in the end, which is the second klal. But the thing is though, Klole Gufe Chaim Ksivbe. Over here, when the Torah writes the second klal, it changes from the first klal. As the Gemara pointed out before, the first klal, it's all-inclusive, and the second klal, it writes a term chayim, which means living beings. So klal prata klal, mai mahanile. So if the Torah, when it wrote the second klal, it wrote specifically the word chayim, so then what is this klal prata klal coming to teach? Ila, so you call davar, if it's coming to say even other things that are not living beings, but a chayim ksiv. But the Torah was specific in the second klal, where it wrote the word chayim, which means bali chayim in midi achrin eloi. It's only Bali Chaim and not anything else. Okay, so what the Gemara over here is saying is that even though we have a klal of prata klal here, but nevertheless, because it's writing the word Chaim, it's changing the klal in the end, that it's not as inclusive as the first klal of prata klal, even though we do darshan this as a klal of prata klal, as the Gemara brought before from Rabbi Shmuel, but nevertheless, if the Torah wrote the second klal only with the term Chaim, I would still say that it only includes only living animals, not anything else. Therefore, the Torah writes to tell me that you pay kefil even for objects that are not bali chayim. That's the answer to this. Okay, but now the Gemara asks another question on this, Omri. But the question on this is, what's this limud that we're learning out from himotze simotze? How are we learning out from this himotze simotze? V'ha shnei klolos the smichi ahadodinin. This is really the pshat in the Gemara before as well. What did we mean over here all this time when we're saying that you could learn out from himotze simotze, the double lashon of this himotze simotze? Well, how are we learning out from this? So the Gemara asks, these two words, himotze simotze, if you find any geneva, it's two general words that are written right near each other. If they're written right near each other, so how are we learning out from this? So in other words, the way the Gemara understands over here that you learn out from the two words himotze simotze is that this is part of the klal of prata klal. If we would just say the word chayim, then I would say the klal of prata klal is limited to living animals. Now that it says himotze simotze, this adds to the klal of prata klal. It sort of reinterprets the klal of prata klal that it should include even things that are not living animals. But the thing is, himotze simotze is not part of this klal of prata klal. Those two words are written separately together. So therefore, the Gemara adds another detail to this. Amar Ravina, so Ravina said, "Keda Amri b'Marave," like it's explained in the Marave, which is in Eretz Yisrael. Kol makim shatamoitze shnei klolis asmuchim zel lezeh. If you find the Torah writes two klals that are right near each other, and then afterwards there are details in the pasuk. Hatel prat b'neihem. You split these two klalis that are here, and you throw the details that the pasuk later specifies in between the two klalim. V'dainam b'klal prat. A klal, and you could darshan this as a klal prata klal as well. So over here as well, when the Torah writes himotze, simotze, so what's the klal prata klal? Ravina is changing from what we said before. Before we said, what's the klal prata klal? Gneiv is the first klal, Chaim is the second klal, and Sher, Chamoyer, and Seh are the pratim in the middle. Says Ravina, no. Once the Braisa in the end says that we have the extra words himotze, simotze, now himotze is the klal, Sher, Chamoyer, and Seh is the prat, and then the second word, simotze, is the other klal that comes after. It's a different klal of prata klal, not Chaim and Geneve, not those two words. And the Gemara now will explain how this works. Huh?
What can it be?
No. The himotze simotze is a klal of prata klal. And this is a new klal of prata klal. The Gemara is saying now. No, because that's the rule. That's when you have two words that are klal together, and then you have the pratim in the pasuk. The way to read the pasuk is to split the two klalim and to put the pratim in between the two klalim, and that becomes now the klal of prata klal. Okay, so therefore, how do we darshan? So shadi shoyer ben himatzei l'simatzei. So you have the two klolim, himatzei and simatzei. You put the word shoyer in between. Right? So now this is the klal of prat klal here. La suye mai. So this is saying that anything else that's similar to this prat of shoyer is also included in kefil. What is it coming to add? Ila suye bali chayim. If you're going to say that it comes to say that you pay kefil for any bali chayim, mechayim nafke. But it already says over there in the pasuk chayim. So I know that you pay for any living animals. So that's what we learn here from this klal of prat klal, that you pay kefil even for any other object. Even not for Bali Chaim. That's the klal of prat klal that you learn out. Himatzei, and then simatzei, and in between you have the word shoyer that comes to say any other object as well. Udroi shachi, ma prat mefurish. What's the prat? Shoyer. So this is something which the pasuk says explicitly, which is davar ametaltal. It's a movable item. V'gufei mammon, and it has value in itself. Av kol davar ametaltal v'gufei mammon. Anything that is movable, which as we learned before in the Gemara, that excludes karka, and gufei mama, which excludes documents, which doesn't have value in itself. So that's what you pay kefil for. That's the limit from the word shoyer. Now, but it also says chamoyer. What do you learn out from the klal of prat klal that it says chamoyer in between? Has to come and add something more. That's ke'ena prat. V'su, now again, shodi chamoyer beni motzei l'simatzei. You also throw the word chamoyer between the two klolim of imatzei and simatzei. So now, what more are we adding from this klal of prat klal that we added now chamoyer here? Lasuya mai, what else is it coming to add? If you're saying it comes to add other objects that are not living beings, mishoy nafka. That I already learned out from the word shoyer, as we just said. Ella has to add something else. It's coming to add anything that's mesuyim, according to Rashi's pshat. A dava mesuyim is anything that has an indication on it, a siman on it. That's when you pay kefil. Or as we mentioned, other Rishonim learn a dava mesuyim means it has to be something that's defined and specific, not if you steal something which is undefined. Okay, so now we understand what the chamoyer is doing here in the pasuk, according to this pshat. But now the question though will remain, selamali. What's the word salvi here in the pasuk coming to add? So on this the Gemara actually stays stuck. According to this pshat of Ravine, we have here the klal of prat klal, himatzei, simatzei, and then in between it says already the word chayim, so we know all living animals. It says the word shoyer, which means all objects. It says the word chamoyer, even all, it's coming to tell you this detail has to be something with a siman. Even though, by the way, chamoyer, Rashi explains, chamoyer is not something that necessarily has a siman, but because it's an extra word, that's what we're marbe. But now why does it have to say seh, according to this understanding of the klal of prat klal? So then we remain actually stuck with this pshat, and the getir for the Gemara changes. And the Gemara here brings a third pshat. Ella says the Gemara, in this case, riba umiyit. When it says first, himatzei simatzei, and then it says the details in the pasuk, we don't darshan it as a klal of prat klal, rather we darshan it as riba umiyit v'riba. What does riba umiyit v'riba mean? It's different than a klal of prat klal. Klal of prat klal means you only include things that are similar to the prat, which is going to be more limited. Riba umiyit v'riba means you include everything, and you only exclude one detail. Okay? Miyit means that you have to be memayit something, but otherwise we'll marb everything. So because the Torah wrote himatzei simatzei together in the beginning of the pasuk, that shows you that here you don't darshan klal of prat klal, you darshan riba miyat and riba. And the Gemara brings another place for this where we find a similar thing. The Tana of the Beis Rabbi Shmuel, bamayim. In the pasuk where it talks about the signs of a kosher fish, so there in the pasuk it says zet toichlin mikol asher bamayim, and then it says kol asher lo snape v'kaskeses bamayim. And then, so in the beginning of the pasuk, it says twice bamayim in any pool of water. And then after it says the two klolim, it says bayamim or banacholim. Oisam techelo. Then it spells out bayamim banacholim, where the oceans or streams. So over there he says bamayim beis pamim, because it says the two klolim first together, twice. And then later it says the details of Bayamim and Banacholim, Ein Zeh Klal Prat. We don't darshan it the way we usually darshan, which is a prat a klal, that we only are going to be marbe what's similar to the prat. Ela rather, riba umiyat v'riba. You darshan it in a different style. Riba umiyat and riba, which means riba hakoil. You marbe everything. My Rabbi Komil, you marbe anything. And over here in our case, the Gemara is coming back to our case, you marbe the payment of kefil for everything. But you also have to be mamayit as well. But you don't have to be memayit only something which is ke'en haprat, but there are certain things you have to be memayit. So now the Gemara is going to explain what exactly are we memayit. Ihachi kol hani prati lamali, the details that it says over here in the pasuk that we're talking about, the shor, the chamer, the seh, and chayim, all these things. What are we being memayit? That is. So the Gemara explains chad lamute karka. One of these words is coming to be mamayit, that there's no payment of kefil when you steal karka. V'chad l'muti avodim. The other one is to exclude if you steal a slave. V'chad l'muti shtaris. The other one is coming to exclude shtaris. Those are the three words of sher, chamayr, and seh. To exclude these three things. So it comes down to the same point that we said before, that if it's a davar hamataltal, v'gufay mamein, then that's where the payment of kefil is, which exclude these three things. But this is the final pshat of the Gemara, that we're not darshaning with a klal of prata klal, rather we're darshaning it with a riboy, miyat, and riboy, and therefore we know to be marba everything. But these three details of sher, chamayr, and seh are mamay, these three things as we just said. But now we still have those two extra words in the pasuk according to this pshat. Geneve v'chayim, the two words of geneve and chayim, what are they teaching us? Now that we're saying that we're not darshaning the words geneve and chayim as the klal of prata klal, we learn out already from himatzei simatzei to darshan riba miyat riba. So what are those two words of geneve and chayim doing here in the pasuk? Says the Gemara, that's a different drasha. Leked Rav is Rav darshan. The Omar Rav said, achyei lekeren ke'en sheganav, that you have to give life to the keren and pay it the way its condition was when it was stolen. This is something we're going to learn about in the Gemara in the next daf, that when you have a behemoth, let's say, that you stole, and you have to pay back the principal, the keren, for what it was. Well, let's say the value of the behemoth went down, or the body of the behemoth doesn't have the same value as it was when it was stolen. You have to give it back in its life the way it was when you stole it. That's what these two extra words of Geneva and Chaim are saying. Give it life, give it back the way it was when you stole it. Okay, Atkan. This is all the explanation of the Gemara according to the opinion that says that this is the pasuk, which is the source that you pay kefil for a ganav. Now the Gemara comes back to the other opinion. Laman, the Omar, according to the other opinion that we learned on Daf Samach Gimel, Chad beganev, Chad betoyin, Tain is ganev. We already have another two psukim, and we already have a source for kefil for the ganev. The ganev atzmai nafkale mi motzei yimotzei haganev, mi motzei haganev. The other pasuk that we quoted, where it says yimotzei haganev, that's talking about the ganev. So hi im himotzei simotzei. This third pasuk of himotzei simotzei that we're discussing here, my darish bey. According to him, this is not the pasuk that's the source of the kefil for the ganav. We have another pasuk. So what is he dashing from here? And says the Gemara, he learns from this third pasuk a different thing. What do I learn from here? My time of the Rav. What's the source of what Rav said? The Omar moide b'knas. If a person admits something which is a payment of a penalty, and even if after he was maide, Edim now testify that this happened, potter. But once he was maide first, he's going to be potter to pay. What's the source for this? That being maide patters you of paying knas. We had this rule already earlier in the Masechta. This is the source. This third pasuk here. The extra two words of himatzei simatzei in this pasuk. What is the drasha here? Himatzei be'edim, if this was found to be not by you admitting, but by edim, then timatzei b'dayanim. Then the dayanim, the judges, will come and say, "Oh, this is found, and you have to pay the knas." Prat l'mashiach atzmai. That excludes someone. It wasn't found by edim, but he incriminated himself. He admitted himself. You don't pay knas. That's what this pasuk is coming to teach. Says the Gemara now, according to the other opinion, that's a two psukim we had before on Daf Samach Gimel. Those two psukim are talking about Toyin Tainis Ganev. So now this pasuk, himatzei simatzei, as we saw before at length, this is coming to teach about the payment of kefil for the Ganev himself, Mashiach Atzma. And this new halacha that we're saying here, that if you incriminate yourself, you don't pay kefil, or any knas for that matter. What's the source for that? He learns it out from another pasuk. Ma'asher yashin alakim. Only if alakim, which is the bezdin, they are incriminating the person through edim, then he pays. V'lei mashiach atzmai. Not if you incriminate yourself. Now, what does the other opinion do with this pasuk? So according to him, the source that if you incriminate yourself, you don't pay. He learns it out already from himatzei simatzei lemarshiyas atzmai. So hi asher yashion my dorish bey. This other pasuk asher yashin alakim. What is he darshan from this pasuk? Amalach, I'll answer you this point that if someone incriminates himself, you don't pay knas or kefil. There are two scenarios to this. Hahumi bayale, he learns from there, lemaide beknas the potter. That there's two cases. There's a case where a person's maide in the knas, and then edim never came afterwards. Then in such a case he doesn't pay the knas. Then you need another pasuk to say again that when he's maide himself, that he doesn't pay the knas, and that's even if edim did come afterwards, that he still doesn't pay the knas. So that's why, according to this opinion, we have two psukim that are coming to teach this halacha. Manda Omar, according to the other opinion, Tarvayu B'toyin Tainis Ganev, that both of the psukim that we brought before on Daf Samach Gimel, they're both talking about Toyin Tainis Ganev. And this pasuk of Yimatze Simatze is talking about the Ganev. So I only have one pasuk to teach that if he incriminates himself, he's potter. He holds that you only need one pasuk to say that if a person incriminates himself, he's potter, because the only time you're potter is if Adam didn't come afterwards. In that second case that we just said, that you incriminated yourself, and then Adam came, in that case, he holds you're going to be chayiv. So you don't need a pasuk for that to say that you're potter. Here, this is the source. The Gemara brings this a lot of times, that there's always an argument about this. When a person incriminates himself, and then Adam come, are you chayiv or potter? So here we see the two opinions, whether you learn it out from Himotze Simotze, or you learn it out from Asher Yashin, you have an extra pasuk to teach that as well. Fragt the Gemara weiter, Ulaman Omar Chad beganev v'chad betoyin tainis ganev. The opinion that we said that one pasuk is talking about ganev, another pasuk is talking about toyin tainis ganev. Those are the first two psukim that we brought before in Daf Samach Gimel. The nafkele ganev mehasam. So you're already learning out the halacha of a ganev from an earlier pasuk. So now, what did he say? The extra pasuk of Himatze Simatze is talking about a different thing. It's coming to tell you that when you incriminate yourself, you're potter. So the question though is, that the pasuk, the extra words himatze simatze, is coming to teach, like Rava Bar Eloi, that if you incriminate yourself, you're potter. I will call hani prati lamali. All the details that it says here in the pasuk, which we spoke about before at length, shoyer, chamar, seh, chayim, all those details. Why does the pasuk have to say if the only thing that it's coming to teach is just this detail that if you incriminate yourself, you're potter? And says the Gemara, they're all taka extra. Kedetana the Beit Rabbi Shmuel, and this is something that Rabbi Shmuel says in another place. Ketana the Beit Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel said, "Kol parsha shenemra v'nishnis." Sometimes you see in the Torah it says something and then it repeats a whole parsha. Le'nishnis el l'davishin is chadash ba. Even though it's repeating many details, it's only repeating it for one thing that you learn. Even though all the other details are extra. So here as well, all the other details are taka extra. Okay, but now the Gemara comes back again according to this opinion. Again, this is all according to the first opinion that's brought in Daf Samach Gimel, that the two times that it says in the pasuk, im yimatzi aganev and im lo yimatzi aganev. Those two times over there in that pasuk where it's speaking about a shomer, one is talking about toyin tainis ganev, and the other one is talking about the ganev. So fragt the Gemara. If you're learning it out from those psukim there, so maybe I should say that the Ganav only pays kefil with a shvua, because in those psukim it says clearly a shvua, as the Gemara pointed out before, because in those psukim it says over there Adal Lakim Yovid Varshneim, which means a shvua. So maybe you should only have to pay kefil with a shvua if you're learning it from there. Says the Gemara, that can be loisal kedaitach. The Tanya, as it says in the Braise, Rav Yaakov Oime Shnaim Yishalem. The Torah it says you pay double, you pay kefil shalei b'shvua. It's without a shvua. Ata Oime shalei b'shvua. You say that a ganav pays kefil without a shvua, or yein ela b'shvua. Maybe you do pay only with a shvua. Amrit loy kachaya. So Rav Yaakov says no, this can't be. Now he doesn't explain. The Gemara explains. My loy kachaya. Why can't you say that? Amr Abayis, so Abayik says that the very fact that the Torah has to say two psukim, one for Toyin Tainis Ganav and one for the Ganav himself, that itself is the proof that a Ganav pays kefil without a shvua. And the Gemara mentioned this svara before already. Because loy lichtav rachmane shnayim yishalem beganav. Not necessary for the Torah B'chlal to say that a Ganav pays kefil. And I would say that I know that he pays kefil with a kavachaymer from the shomer that claims that it got stolen, that when he pays kefil. If one that claims that he stole it came into his possession beheter because he got it as a shaymer. Today, the Torah says if he claims it got stolen, he has to pay then kefil if he has it. A ganav that went and physically stole it, for sure he should have to pay kefil. Why is the Torah specifying that a ganav himself pays kefil? It's coming to say that even without a shvua, without swearing falsely, he also pays kefil. That's what we learn out from here. But now the Gemara concludes. One more point there. This is a question on all opinions. V'hai im himatze simotze. We said before what we darshan from himatze simotze. Whether we darshan from there the chiyuv of kefil by a ganev, whether we darshan from there prat l'marshia satzma, that if you incriminate yourself, you're potter. Like the Gemara lahachi udasa. It's coming for these drashas that we said before. We need the extra words himatze simotze for what a brayso learns from here. A different thing. What does the brayso say? Yodai, when the pasuk says that the geneva is found in your hands, be yodai, it says there in the pasuk. Eli eli yodai. I would think that we're talking only about a geneva that you have in your hands. Gagoy, chatzerek, kafifay minayin. How do I know if it's a geneva that's found in your domain? Whether it's your rooftop, your courtyard, or karfif, which is another kind of domain. How do you know that there you're chayav for the geneva to pay kefil as well? The double lashon of mimatzis imatzis teaches that it doesn't have to be only in your hands. Wherever in your property it is. So how can we say we learn the other drashas of imatzis imatzis if in this brayso it says you have to learn this drasha? Says the Gemara, there's room for two drashas because imken leim mikra oi himatzei. Let the pasuk say the double lashon and not switch the language. It could either say himatzei, oi timatzei, using the same word. Midashani kra, the fact that the pasuk not only repeats but it uses a different word. So the change of word, shma min not party. I could learn a second drasha as well, as we said before.